Hello everyone, today I'm going to share with you my favorite concealers, and as you all know, I don't wear concealer daily, but it was a very popular request from my last video, which was my favorite powder foundations, which I will go ahead and link here as well as down below. And I'll start off this video with my favorite concealer, which is actually the Tomforde Traceless Foundation Stick. But this is actually not used as a foundation, even by Tomforde makeup artists, because it's very heavy and it doesn't quite dry down as well. So when I apply it all over my face with his cream foundation brush, it actually just kind of sticks to my face and feels really heavy. I can tell I'm wearing foundation and I don't like that feeling. So I only use this as a concealer. I have number 3 in Fawn, and I use that under my eye. I'm not wearing it today. I'm actually wearing a different concealer that I'll talk about later, but I love this for flash photography. It just creates a really nice, smooth canvas, and it's very long lasting. Also, it does come in a pretty wide shade range. Another good thing to note about that product is that even though it is a luxury brand, it's very affordable considering how much product you get, especially if you only use it as a concealer as I do. Now for the first concealer that I felt that was really worth the price tag, and for me it's hard to justify the cost of some high-end designer or luxury concealers because I simply don't wear concealer often enough. But the Dior Skin Sculpt concealer is one of my favorites, and unfortunately it's only available in 3 shades. I use number 2, and it comes with this awesome soft doe foot that you could use to apply the concealer directly to your skin. And I love how full coverage yet long lasting and creamy and easily blendable this concealer is. The Tomforde Traceless Foundation Stick is pretty dense, it's really thick and rich. After all, it is intended to be a foundation, it just is better as a full coverage concealer. You can use both on blemishes, I don't recommend it. They're best for under eyes. Now for my favorite mid-range, most versatile concealer. I feel that the Bobbi Brown Creamy Concealer is so travel friendly. If you're a concealer junkie, you have to have this in your makeup bag, or you have to have it in your everyday routine, just because sometimes if you only wear concealer, you do tend to run through a lot of product. And I know I do have some subscribers that only wear concealer and not any foundation at all on a regular. So I use the color Sand, and I love using this under my eyes and on my blemishes. I feel like even though this is a very creamy concealer, it does tend to last longer around my nose, where my skin is the most red, as well as pretty well on my blemishes too. So overall, I feel like this is the best bang for your buck in terms of high-end concealers. But unless I'm being photographed, I really generally tend to reach for lighter concealers because I don't like to feel like I'm wearing a lot of makeup, especially if I'm not really going anywhere special. I do tend to wear face makeup, like foundation, every day, but a lot of the times I don't wear much more than that other than mascara. So let's start with the 2 concealers that I feel are pretty versatile for everyday natural wear. I love the Lancome Regenerate Multiple Eye Action Duo just because it comes with an eye cream at the bottom, and this one works really well under concealers. It's nice and soft, smells good, dries down well. My other favorite eye cream to use under concealer is YSL's Forever Eye Cream because it dries down and it has a little bit more silicone in it, so it creates a smoother surface for the concealer to sit on. But the reason why I like this Lancome concealer so much is that it's very dry, and it's not dry in the sense that it's dry immediately on contact with the skin. It's very smooth and creamy to the touch when you place your finger on it and then apply it to the eye. It just dries down really quickly, and so it's a very natural effect. I don't like concealers that are really shimmery, even though it does help to brighten up the eye if you have really dark circles. Because I don't suffer from dark circles, I like a lighter concealer. So if you're like me, then this one would probably work best for you, and you get an eye cream at the bottom. So this is definitely one that I like to travel with. Now for my Limité de Beauté Peau Vierge concealers, and I really love these concealers. They're very special, they're very expensive. I used to love Clé de Peau until I met this concealer, and the reason I say that is because Clé de Peau is a normal concealer, but Clé de Peau creases on me just a little bit, especially with their formula changing over the years. The Limitier does not crease on me. I'm wearing it today. I'm wearing the cool color under my eyes, and I actually use medium around my nose and on some of the redness on my right cheek. And I feel that these concealers are the best bang for your buck in terms of the luxury concealer, just because even though you don't get as much as the Tomforde necessarily, it's the most bang in terms of the kind of treatment it offers. Not only is the coverage very sheer to full coverage, with one swipe I get sheer coverage, with 2 swipes of this concealer I get medium coverage, and with 3 swipes I get about full coverage. And even though these concealers are very expensive, they last a long time. And they're long lasting, they're not drying, they sit well under powder, and so that's why I feel like overall, even though these are a pretty penny, they're probably one of the best concealers I've ever tried. So I really do love these, and if you're interested in Clé de Peau, I recommend you try these first, just because the Clé de Peau is popular since it's such a famous concealer, but I really feel that if you want a luxury concealer, then either try the Limitier de Beauté or the Tomforde for fuller, thicker, more photogenic coverage, which I will address later on in a separate video. I will do a tutorial for photogenic makeup. Now, the majority of these concealers are used under the eye. Again, you can use them on blemishes, but it's not really the recommended use. So I'm going to show you my favorite concealer for blemishes. This is the Laura Mercier Secret Camouflage Palette. I have this in a couple different colors for my clients, but I use SC3 and SC4 for the most part, and you can mix the 2 shades together to match whatever color the blemish or your skin perfectly. And this doesn't work quite so well on really dry blemishes, but on active blemishes and red blemishes, I feel like this one works really well because it has that thicker, pastier texture. Sometimes I'll use a hydrating mist to change the consistency of the concealer a little bit, make it a little more malleable. Otherwise, I will use the MAC Studio Sculpt concealer, the one in the glass pot, not the plastic pot. And I feel like this one, it works pretty well on all blemishes, but I feel as though it doesn't last quite as long as the Laura Mercier, so that's why I prefer this little compact. And last but not least, before we get into the overview, my favorite concealer from the drugstore is Revlon's Photoready. And this concealer does crease on me. I have it in the shade 03, but it is the best concealer that I've tried from the drugstore. I also like the Age Rewind by Maybelline, but I have the older formula. I haven't tried the newer one. So even though I know that range is particularly good for a drugstore product, I haven't tried it myself yet, so maybe later on. But for now, the Revlon Photoready is definitely one worth trying if you're interested in drugstore products. So now let's get into the breakdown. My favorite of all the concealers shown is the Tomforde. I just feel that the product works really well with my skin, and even though it's not an everyday use product, it really is one that I reach for the most. Next would be the Limitier, just because I can use it under my eyes as well as on my blemishes, and I think that's a really attractive trait when it comes to any product, that you can use it on more than one part of your face. The most travel-friendly and budget-friendly concealer, I would have to say, is the Bobbi Brown. Plus, it's long enough lasting on oily skin, and it doesn't cake up on dry skin. And last but not least, I feel like the most natural of the concealers is the Lancome Regenerate Eye, just because of the great dry down. So those are my recommendations, but again, my favorite of the bunch is still either the Tomforde or the Limitier, just depends on your budget. So I hope all my concealer junkies and lovers found that video helpful. Again, if you have any further questions, feel free to leave them down below and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. Have a great weekend, everyone. Bye.